Day. New episode of the Christelle Nadia podcast in English. Day. We do an episode in English every Tuesday and every Thursday. So, Day, in this episode, just one word. Habemus Papam. We have a new pope. And I have to admit that I didn't expect the church, the Catholic Church, to get a new pope that quickly. I mean, the one thing that it says is that the Catholic Church is very, very mindful of the fact that it is an institution in crisis, that it has a communication issue due to all the sexual abuse scandals, and that people really want change, cosmetic or whatever. So, yeah, I've been Miss Papa. So, American Pope. I was watching it on the news, the white smoke, of course. And then you're like, oh my God, they're going to go back. They're going to choose an Italian pope who's going to be very conservative or whatever. Or they're going to choose, I don't know, a black or an Asian pope, whatever. An American pope. And I was like, eh. Then you hear about his bio. You hear that he has spent time in Peru. You hear about Villanova. You also see the name that he chooses, Pope Leo the. Then you say to yourself, interesting. But talking about the new Pope is also a way for me to talk about America, my America. The new Pope shows the type of America that I love, a worldly America. An America that knows that because it is the first nation in the world, what it used to be, it is the world superpower. It has to open itself to the world. It can't just close us and expect others to come to her or to come to it. It has to be more open. I get to America in 1993, and at that time there were a lot of America who didn't know shit about the world. You could say to people, I just come back from Paris, and we're like, is it in Europe? Is it in Latin America? Americans didn't really travel. It's changing, but I have questions about education in America. But 93, even East Coast, went to prep schools in New York, Massachusetts, with that crowd. People were like, but at least there was a fascination with knowledge and with the world, Europe. People wanted to know. People were curious. And I think that with Pope Leo, that is that America that is at the forefront. An America that looks at others, looks at the world, and decides not to make it an enemy. Decides that if it wants to be great again or to remain great, it can't do it by fighting the world, by making it smaller, and by being on top of a smaller universe with small nations where it just dominates and people just have to follow and agree with everything that it says. America. Yeah. So, new Pope. People are making a lot about the fact that he has Asian roots. They're saying, oh yeah, we got a black Pope. And I'm like, whatever. In my podcast on Pope Francis, I said that it wasn't really necessary for the church, the Catholic Church, to get a black Pope. And what it needed was a younger Pope Francis. And I think the world may have gotten that. The Catholic Church may have listened to me. I think I was right. The Catholic Church just got a younger Pope Francis, going to be more, because he has time. He's going to be less abrupt, more diplomatic. One of the reasons why Pope Francis needed to be abrupt, needed to be the way that he was because he was older and he was very, very mindful that the Catholic Church was in crisis, that things were bad, and that he didn't have enough time to basically take his time, and that what he could do, he could be the Pope who goes woo, 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 so that when the next one comes, he can take it slowly, be more consensual, but still move the church in that direction. So for me, talking about the new Pope and the Catholic Church is also a way to talk about institutions. That reminds me about when Obama got elected. People were like, African American, the first African American president. Yeah, things are gonna change. The sky is gonna be green or whatever. We are in post-racial America. John McWhorter was into that crap. The post-racial America. We're done with race. Now that America has elected, a black president, an African American, all the racial questions are just solved. We're past it. Race is no longer a thing. I remember Miente when Obama got elected. I was in this bar, and this bartender gave me a free drink, and he was like, "Yeah," he's a white guy. He said, "Yes, you must be happy that Obama is elected. Our guy is in there." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I just spoke to Michelle, and she told me not to come, so I'm very, very sad. And he looks at me and he says, "You must not be American. You must be originally from another country." The point is that the dressing, when it comes to institution, it matters, but it's not the whole thing. It matters who's on top, but more often than not, when you get a new leader and that has some type of I'm not going to say education, but he's very, very mindful. He knows that what he can do is very, very limited, especially when he's the first African American president, first American Pope. So yeah, Obama, the one thing he got right was his understanding that even by being the first black president, the first African American president, he couldn't just change America. He had to be mindful of the fact that people saw him as a black person and that he wasn't elected to be a black president. He was elected to be an American president. He had to be mindful of the way America was. So if you compare Obama and Trump, you see the difference, and you see that Trump is going to be more consequential than Obama ever was. But that has nothing to do with Obama abilities. It has everything to do with America and its institutions. The Supreme Court gave Trump all type of power, basically saying that he's close to a king. This Supreme Court, as conservative as it is, would have never done that with Obama, with an African American president, with a black person, even with a woman president, even if Hillary Clinton had been president, if Kamala Harris had been president. Never. They would have never been able to do what Trump is doing right now. They would have been able to. Because who is at the top? Who's able to break a few eggs? Who's able to basically, ruffle feathers, question the rules, say no, the Constitution says this? Are people whose Americanness is never, ever going to be questioned, who are never going to have to face questions about Are they really American? Do they really love the country? Do they have America's interest at heart? With Obama, that question was always out there. Is he American enough? Isn't he really Kenyan? Isn't he really African? Isn't he really thinking when he's acting this way about other stuff uh, besides American interest? So there was a lot of things he couldn't do. Even with his killing list, with all of this, extrajudicial killing and everything, he was very, very mindful of that. I think one of the reasons why I'm reassessing my opinion of Obama is by looking at the way Trump is acting and understanding that Obama get that. It's unfortunate. I think Obama came too early. Obama became president too early. No, very good at running for president, but managing the United States, I think he did the job as any other Americans would, but he didn't really seize the moment. And my take is that he couldn't seize the moment. People would say that just because he's an African American. No, I think that his experience, the fact that he was limited in his experience, mattered. It was very, very key. Trump, older guy, older white guy. He knows he's more masterful. He's unafraid. He doesn't care. He ruffles feathers. He just break things, goes, whatever. Obama was very, very careful. First term, like this. Yes, my guess. If he could run for president again, he would be a very, very different president. But that's the problem. Again, with America. So, the new Pope. American Pope. My type of America, a worldly American who speaks Spanish, Italians. He didn't speak English, when, he was introduced to the world. I think that's key. I have no idea what type of Pope he's going to be, but I'm saying that he gets the symbolism right for now. But again, the question is not him. The question is the church. The question is not who the Pope is. The question is what the church is and what it stands for. Is Pope Leo XVI going to understand that the church is very, very diverse? It is not the same in Africa as it is in Europe, as it is in America, and that the church has to understand that it belongs to everybody, and that because it went to those places, it has to let those people in and take them as they are. Accept their history, accept their difference, accept their Africanness, their Latin Americanness, their Asianness. I think that's the role of Pope Leo XVI. But again, no matter how great he is, no matter how um, worldly he is, it may be possible that the church cannot deal with this crisis because no matter how the figurehead, at the end of everything, it has to address the sexual abuse of a lot of Catholic members in Africa and elsewhere. The American, talking about the American Pope, it's also a way to talk about the American president and to talk about what does making America great again means. There's two ways to see it. Either you say, oh, the world has been taking advantage of us. America is no longer America because America is worldly, because there's too many people from other countries here. Illegal immigration, let's just beat the world down. Let's assert stuff, chaos, whatever. Very, very Hobbesian way of seeing the world. Or there's what I'm going to call the worldly American way to see the world by saying America is part of the world. America can be great by making the world smaller. America is diverse. You may disagree about how it has to show its diversity. There's no way you can't avoid talking about diversity. There's no way. Because diversity is also a way to talk about equality. Diversity is also a way to talk about equality. And what is very, very alarming with what is happening in America and the world right now is that people are fighting the value of equality, equal access for the disabled. I am disabled. Equal access, equality, women and men. And I'm hoping that the new Pope is going to be an answer to that national liberalism. That's a concept created by Jean-François Bayard. National liberalism, national stuff for the poor, and liberalism, neoliberalism for people who are rich. You give identity questions to the poor. Illegal immigration, they're not good. They're exploiting the country. They're taking too much stuff, threatening our identity. And with the rich, you're talking about taxes, tax cuts, so that they can get richer. More ways to make money or to keep what they have. So, yes, mi gente. Habemos papa? Yes. The Pope, the American Pope, he looks good. He talks fine. I don't know who he is, but the hope for people like me, or just for me, who is baptized, whose dad was very, very fervent, very, very pious Catholic, is that he finds a way to answer those for whom the most important question of our time are identity questions, when the social questions matter, when history matters, when, yes, Black lives matter, when African lives matter, and yes, when Futsu matters. History. The American Pope has to deal with history. The church history, America history, and yes, Africa history in the church, Latin America history in the church, and Asia history in the church, so that we can move forward together. Miente, thank you for watching the episode. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. You can write to me, contact at fotso.org. I will see you next Thursday. On reste ensemble. Bien,